You are listening to The Sound of a Better Life, a podcast show from Denmark. I am Maria Gulager, and personally I've let go of some deep convictions about how life ought to be lived. This is my platform to bring you new perspective and encourage you to investigate your point of views and values through honest conversations with insightful people about their life philosophy. And remember this throughout. You are unimaginably, inexplicably, and irrevocably welcome right here, right now. So, welcome to you, Adrian Duncan.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you are a world-class astrologer.
Yes.
Yes. And you have meant a lot to astrologers around the world, or to having the word out about astrology. Let's put it like that.
That's true.
Yeah, so I'm very pleased to meet with you. Especially because I did an episode on astrology a little more than a year ago with Lilly Jensen. You might know her, a Danish astrologer. She has a school here. And at that time, it was a very good episode. It was a very good interview, and you should definitely listen to it before you listen to this one. But my starting point was completely different than it is now. I was just... You want to say something? Sorry?
Yeah, I thought I'd stop you right here.
Yeah, stop me.
Yeah. Because I thought that I'd tell you something about you.
All right.
Because this is like interesting from the point of view of what astrology is and what astrology can do.
Yeah.
I don't know your horoscope, right? I don't know what date you're born on or anything.
No.
I don't know anything about it. So I'm going to tell you about your situation now, based on the horoscope for here and now.
Without knowing my birthday?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Because traditionally, if you go back a few hundred years, where there's some really great astrologers, it was pretty accepted in society among scientists, and you pretty much had to know astrology to go to university and stuff. They used to make the horoscope just for the arrival of the client, because the idea is that nothing can happen at one particular moment in time except what's actually happening. In other words, if you study the influences for any particular moment in time based on planetary positions and the time and the place, then you'll be able to say in detail what's going on for the other person.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you what's going on for you. So here's what I think. You can correct me as we go along. First of all, you are an incredibly spiritual person. It's not in any way kind of superficial. It's like so deep, you're almost lost at sea. You're so lost at sea, but searching and finding. It's not just spiritual. You're trying to go down deep into psychological issues. It's not. Therefore, it's not just a question of faith, but it's a question of personal investigation. But what's motivating you in many ways is a kind of, it's not so rational, it's very, very faith-based or very intuitive, it's super deep. And psychologically, it's a combination of incredibly deep depth psychology and spiritual sensitivity, which is incredibly loving. In other words, what motivates you is a kind of a deep need for a compassionate approach to existence. So tremendous resources of love. Unfortunately, you could say slightly frustrated by the fact that some not so good experiences with some people, and by the needs are so deep that actually no ordinary person can provide the solution to those needs, so no partner will appear that can do that.
Ever?
So,
did you?
Well, you're with the leading one in that, and the partner needs to be the one who listens to what you've got to say, and in that sense, you're not going to be able to lean on anything but a sort of God archetype to actually, that's where your satisfaction comes in from the within, not from without, and you get it. You'll get that. It's fantastic.
Are you saying this is particularly about me?
Absolutely, and only about you. Yeah.
And how? I didn't understand what you said before. How did you study that without knowing people's?
Because I know exactly where the planets are right now. It's called the horoscope for the moment.
But for me or for everyone?
Well, nobody else is here, right?
Okay, so it's exactly the person who's here.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So it's about location. As well.
Yeah, time and location, exactly. Because nothing can happen at any one particular place and time other than what is actually happening. And what is actually happening is reflected by the movement of the Earth on its axis and the movement of the planets around the Sun. This is like a unique, never to be repeated moment, which, and anybody who turns up to anybody who's asking the question, which is me, anyone who turns up at that particular time must be attuned with those planetary movements. And the great thing about that is, by following planetary movement, you know where planets have been. You always know where they've been. There's a table you can look at, and you always know where they're going. It's completely measurable. So if you know what the planets are representing and symbolizing, you know what's happened in the past for that person, and you know what's happening now, and you know what's going to happen in the future. That's the mastery of prediction.
And that's our title for today.
Yeah.
And it is within this understanding of life that nothing is an accident, nothing is random. It could be an accident, but it's not random.
Yeah.
Everything is supposed to happen.
Nothing is random, but for this reason. Basically, we are incredibly unaware people, We really do not see hardly anything of what's going on around us. I mean, I'm not just talking about visual, auditory and physical registration of what's going on, but also of the whole way the brain works to register input, and if the brain did register all the input there was, we just have a burnout. We couldn't manage, But basically, I can't remember what my point was.
Yeah, but that is that we only recognize what we see, what we can sense.
Yeah.
And we have to look behind the physical world to get answers and to get what will satisfy us.
I know what I was going to say. Yeah. It's just that people talk about astrology and free will, or is there, or even, Christians, they would also talk about fate and free will, and that's, nobody's ever come up with an answer. But basically that's because nobody is aware of exactly what's going on at any particular moment in time enough. Because if you were aware of it, you'd realize, if you were aware of every micro movement and micro thought that arose, you would see that nothing could be happening any differently than how it is happening. It's so just like you've made the actions in the past, other people have made the actions in the past. It's incredibly subtle, far more subtle than we possibly could realize. So in a way, nothing can be happening other than what is happening. And so the whole question of free will is like a misunderstanding of who the self is, who you are as an individual. Because the self itself is a construction based on certain ways we perceive.
But this is a podcast about life mastery, about strategies in life, and that we have choices, and that we can do something about our lives. And I don't think this is a contradiction, what you're saying, because I view astrology as something that tells us insights that will make us enable us to make a different choice, right? To change,
or to understand exactly what we're doing.
Yeah,
because basically, yes, I think you have to assume with astrology and with life that what you do makes a difference.
Yeah.
But basically you're going to continue doing the same things you've always been doing because of the patterns that have been created in your brain, really. The neurons, if you like, and you have to change the pathways in your brain to change your fate.
And that's doable, right?
Yeah, because you can do it through consciousness.
Yes.
Because consciousness is the magical ingredient to what's happening now.
Yeah.
And then you can change what's happening now through the application of conscious application.
Right, good. That's a good note. that is possible, and I suppose that is a point in knowing your horoscope.
Because the great thing about the horoscope is, if you look at, the perception of reality.
Yeah.
You've got your consciousness and you've got the object of consciousness, which is what's happening around you.
Yeah.
Basically, you process things through either your eye or your ear or your touch and maybe, some inner feeling and your thoughts. But people don't even do that. What actually happens is they see something with their eye or they hear something with their ear, and an immediate kind of all the programs, all the experiences and memories that they've had in their upbringing immediately starts changing what they're seeing, hearing and feeling. Yeah, so they aren't even seeing, hearing and feeling what's actually happening. But the horoscope is the map of how you modify reality according to your character.
Modify reality according to our characters.
Yeah. So if you're conscious of that way you modify, like what you see, let me give an example. Let's say somebody had let's say somebody had a brother who was always kind of terrorizing them.
Yeah.
A younger brother or an older brother terrorizing them. Well, that person would have a kind of imprint in their brain that whenever there was a kind of aggressive older man or something like that, they would feel anxious or be on the defensive. That would pop up again. And then they wouldn't hear what that normal older guy is trying to say. They start filtering it according to the inner program, and that program is what you read in the horoscope.
Yeah, so that you can get an understanding and some sort of explanation, I feel, to, me and what I experience. Okay, so I have all these questions.
No, I know. I'm the one leading this, so I'm going to shut up now.
Well, just in a little bit. Because my first question to you is so important. Because I'm not even surprised that you could just tell me this. I mean, I'm amazed, but I'm not.
Well, is it true?
It is true. It is true. But this is what I found to be true. I've only known it for a couple of months. So I feel I'm just like a baby figuring out I can crawl. Okay, I can get from a place to another place. I don't have someone to carry me. I don't have to have that. That's how I feel in terms of astrology. So. But at least I have discovered that this works, that this is true. And it's not because I did go away from religion in my life. I don't want to get entangled, caught up in some other system. I've been very aware of that.
Right.
But this is completely different because when I read my horoscope, and especially when it's the exact horoscope with everything that is my birth date and time and location, then it is so exact. Nothing else have provided me with that. I know a lot of people who enjoy personality tests and the Enneagram and stuff like that, and it's all good, not to offend people. I'm just saying this really excites me because nothing has been so accurate to me. And my question in that is, why don't we, as a society, recognize astrology as something else than just this mystical thing that...
Yeah, I thought a lot about that.
Nerds and
Well, I think it's a long answer to that. I think, for example, in the 1980s, that there was a real openness in society to astrology, but since then, there's been a blossoming of astrology on the internet, but in society, there's been a pretty strong shutting down of astrology by the academic world. Now, one reason for this is it's really difficult to prove that astrology works using current scientific methods. Now, there's a lot of really intelligent astrologers who've got PhDs, work with statistics, and there is certain evidence. But if there was, which is kind of, is ignored. There is some statistical evidence that is ignored, but otherwise it's very, very difficult to draw a statistical correlation because we're dealing with psychology and fate. It's not that easy. And the demands of science is that, things you should be able to replicate them.
But it's so old, this wisdom, right?
Yeah, but that's not an argument that's going to affect anybody. Secondly, so basically the academic, I don't know how many Nobel scientists signed a petition against astrology a few decades ago, and that, there's an extremely focused and successful attempt to shut down astrology, but at the same time, astrologers themselves, there's a lot of fuzzy-minded astrologers, and there's a lot of it's wrong, and it's easy to kind of call it into question.
Absolutely, like you're talking about the weekly magazines and...
Yeah, now you actually find that there's brilliant astrologers writing that stuff, actually, but it's sun sign astrology, and sun sign astrology is like 1 in 12 of which the population
that's
is
never
very,
resonated.
very difficult.
It's never resonated with me. No. Whereas when I started reading your horoscopes, I didn't say that before, but when I started reading what you have online, that is when it started to make sense.
The sun sign astrology, like based on your sun sign?
What you are writing there?
Was it?
Oh, what it is? What I am?
What you read on my site, was it sun sign astrology? Was it...
What is the difference?
You just look under your sun sign.
They are under Pisces.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
I thought you were Pisces.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. You came in and you were very unorganized. No problem. But that's because, the technique of sun sign astrology is absolutely magical. And you have to be, a good astrologer to do it well. Yeah. And there are a lot of good astrologers doing it well, actually. But there's also a lot not doing it well. And there are techniques and tricks, which are fantastic. It's a whole subject for itself. But you're never going to prove astrology from sun sign astrology. You have to use planetary positions, statistics, correlations with events. And the trouble is, it's character, self-assessment and stuff. Also, the whole question of replication, because nothing replicates astrologically. There's never one moment which is the same as the next moment.
When astrologers have a hard time to earn money and live from their work, isn't that a flaw in their astrology then? In their reading chart, shouldn't they be able to figure out the way?
Oh, I see, a way of earning money. Well, and some have.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
That's good.
So there are astrologers who are extremely good that work on the American Stock Exchange, and a friend of mine is like.
But then that's a proof, that it works.
Well, it's not a proof. Demands of proof are much, much greater than that. So what actually happens is that there are very few full-time professional astrologers. They have other jobs, and. That means, it could be so much more developed and more powerful, but it's not at the moment. That's okay. And also the other thing, most astrologers are pretty spiritually minded. They're not very materialistic. They wouldn't, and they're not good enough either to work out how to make a lot of money from it.
Exactly.
And you'd have to focus on something that was pretty boring, like the stock market.
Yeah, okay, I get that.
Or something like that, instead of people. And most astrologers are interested in
but you understand my logic, right?
Yeah, but it was a bit of a demanding question, I think.
Yes.
Because astrology, one shouldn't overestimate, what it can do, because it's so difficult. It's so difficult to get it right.
Yeah. All right. But even though we have, the universities and the way that we view knowledge as a barrier to astrological know-how.
Academic, I would say. Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, the system.
Yes. Yeah. Of course, there are different universities. Yeah. Then I'm just, we ought to use it in a lot of different life circumstances, not at least when we're dating.
Yeah.
And I know I've found like a few American sites, but I don't think they're probably working.
Yeah.
They're not working probably.
Why?
They seem old. You can see that you can look, when you see in the first page, it's like, there's probably not any guys in there.
Well,
but it should be much more common.
Yeah.
Why not?
Well, first of all, it gives me a chance to plug something because I'm developing a dating app.
Are you?
Yeah.
That is amazing news.
Yeah. It is so fantastic. You wouldn't believe it. Because what it does, the idea is, this is the idea at least, it's an artificial reality app. So you just point your iPhone at somebody.
No.
And it checks out their Facebook profile and has the birth date, calculates the horoscope for the person, compares it with yours, and tells you what's the best way to approach this person.
That is great.
Yeah, but we're still looking for investment.
Yeah. No, I'm happy to hear that you're working on it, because otherwise I would have left you with that. Please do something about this.
But in terms of love and dating, you see, there's the thing is, you can say who's compatible.
Yes.
But normally we're really good instinctively at finding out, who we like. It's easy. You go into a room, you look and you think, I like that person, but not all these other people. There's something happening, subliminally, I think. And then we go and mess it up, if we're not clever. Like we're going to, because of our personal flaws.
The filter you were talking about before.
Exactly. We might have that one I mentioned, or there might be another one. There's another one where with Mercury, Pluto, for example, you're always a little suspicious. So when somebody says, I've been working late at the office, you say, was the secretary working late? And then you get, you force people into a sense of lies. In other words, you create your own reality through flaws in your personality, which then can mess up a relationship. Now, knowing these flaws and counteracting them can really help relationships. Astrology is a wonderful tool for helping relationships.
Yes, and that is actually what made me so confident that this works. Because one thing is just my own, wow, okay, that's really crazy that it's so on point with Pisces and me. But then I met this guy who was Gemini. Yeah. And I looked it up and it was horrible, our match. And I thought, what is that? But then it just showed up exactly like it said it would. Like he was, wanting to be all around the place and not looking for anything serious. And I'm, the clingy, dependent type.
Are you connected with this guy still?
No.
Because that's the kind of guy you're going to be meeting at the moment.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And you have to be more tolerant of the superficiality because nobody's going to want to go quite so deep as you. You have to do it in your work. So you just have to tolerate that superficiality. They have something else to bring. But anyway, just that's as an aside, but generally, statistically speaking, any sun sign can marry any other sun sign.
And it will be successful.
Yeah, or not.
Or not.
Yeah, so, statistically, there is a slight... There has actually been some astrological evidence of statistical compatibility, but it's very weak. And so, in other words, basically, you're not going to make any. You shouldn't be sorting potential partners from their sun signs.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I thought that was such a help. Because
it's not enough.
Exactly
you need to
him.
see the whole horoscope.
Yeah.
But it's true that Gemini kind of flits about on the surface, superficially, etc. But not all Geminis do that.
Okay.
Depends, because if Mercury was in Cancer, Mercury rules Gemini.
And that's all the variations.
There's tens of thousands of variations.
It was just so accurate with us.
Yeah, okay, it's fair enough, and it often is. There is the basic sense of compatibility, but then there's all the other things that are either attracting you or not.
Yeah, but then it kind of helps. Okay, we were not a match.
Yeah, okay, it made you feel good.
Sorry, it made me feel good. Okay, so we have sun signs and zodiac signs. Is that two different things?
No, sun signs is just where the sun. It's the same as zodiac signs.
Okay, that's the
or
same.
Star signs.
Okay.
I call them sun signs because they're actually based on the Earth's position related to the sun. So there's a lot of scientists and skeptics that talk about there being 13 sun signs or the fact, 13 star signs, or the fact that the stars have moved in relation to the solar system, changing this. It's all rubbish, actually, because it's just something, the sun signs are measured within the solar system itself. They never change, and there are only 12 of them.
But then the planets are changing.
The planets are moving all the time.
Moving.
The moon moves like a sign every 2 days, but Saturn will take 30 years to move through a sign. So it's different speeds.
Because my question is, so we've changed as the world has changed, right?
Right. Since you sat here, the world has turned about a 20th.
Since I sat here, yeah. Okay, but even when it was more common to be in a relationship long term, and then up until now, where a lot of people get divorced, and maybe they even enter a relationship thinking, I don't know how long it's gonna last. I'm just gonna see how it goes. That's a different mentality than before.
Absolutely.
Is that? Can you see that?
Yeah.
Was that to be predicted?
It might be able to be predicted, but basically, you can definitely see generational influences, and that's based on the movement of the slow-moving planets. So what's happening right now in civilization, we're moving actually from one historical epoch to another. And the historical epoch that we're moving from is basically the Christian epoch. Which was based on the idea of sacrifice, suffering, doing things for other people, and spiritual tension, you could say, and polarity like God and the devil, good and evil.
And man and woman together.
So what's happening in this transition period now, which has been going on for about many years, but you could say the last 50 years, very strong, is that all those Christian concepts are being ignored or changed or something. For example, people take selfies.
Yeah.
Selfies. Hello. And post them, and they think on Instagram this is great.
Yeah.
It's just so foreign.
And we all have to look at faces all day because we are scrolling down.
Yeah, that's true. Because
the
new epoch is about groups, really, and the internet, the connection of of everybody on Earth via the net, and this whole connection thing, and the whole idea of God and the devil is just like so out of place today, because the devil is like temptation and all that. It's what we're fueling this change. Civilization, the change in civilization is being fueled by the 7 deadly sins: greed and sexuality and lust and all those things. And not to criticize them, they are powerful.
You're thinking
forces.
about capitalism and the way that our society is run by money, and
No, not really. No, because that's a political system.
Okay.
I'm thinking about our ordinary drives, which are characterized as the 7 deadly sins in Christianity, which have now become normalized and integrated. And we don't even think really in terms of good and evil like they used to 100 years ago, where everything was like cut black and white. Yeah. Things have changed. So my answer is, you can see long-term trends, both like in terms of hundreds of years and in terms of generations and that kind of thing.
Is it gonna come back up where we can stick together?
I don't know, but I don't think so. And because I think that the whole change in society where women and men go out to work, they become totally equal. I know they're not quite equal now, but compare it to 100 years ago.
More equal.
They are, right? And the whole dynamic is that they become more equal. Children become brought up more by the state, especially in kindergartens, etc. There may be some trends where family becomes stronger again, but I personally think that it's not going to go that way.
But being a Pisces, I'm poetic and very romantic.
Right, but you can make your own rules, You don't. I mean, I personally think families are great and people should stick together.
Yeah.
And I could be wrong also, and there might be a kind of trend back to that. I don't know,
but that it is very telling that, because sometimes I've been thinking, a lot of time I've been thinking that I might have been mentally ill or something, because the way that I react and the way that I feel, and that no one else does, that I'll meet a man and then I'll instantly fall in love. And I've come to know this about myself. I know that it's not common and I don't expect it from him, but it's still something that just happens. I can't control it. And when I'm reading my horoscope, I feel redeemed. I feel excused in a way. Understood, at least.
Well, you may have Venus in Pisces. If you're a Pisces, that Venus will be close to the Sun. So it's either going to be in Pisces or in the 2 signs next to it normally. So you could have Venus in Aries or Venus in Aquarius. And Venus represents love and romance and attraction. So if Venus was also in Pisces, this is the kind of blue-eyed idealist who dreams of the perfect relationship, and this often leads to disappointment because it expresses itself better in a devotional way, like religious or meditative. But I'm just guessing.
I'm just going to do that then. I'm just going to do that.
I mean, the trick, I think, is to not to have expectations of other people that they can't live up to.
You're referring very much to my horoscope, because Pisces tend to have that too high expectations. To their partners.
And then they get disappointed.
All right, but this is me. When I talk about this, it's with hindsight always. I tried a little bit when I met this Gemini guy. I tried to kind of predict it, but it had to happen in order for me to see it and truly believe it, because we did keep dating, and I even saw it, after first date. So what is the difference? Like, can you really predict, or is it retrospect that we understand through the horoscopes and the signs?
Well, retrospect helps, right? I mean, it's always easy to say I thought you were a Pisces. It's like a retrospective prediction, right? The whole thing of prediction is incredibly sensitive area, and a lot of astrologers, a whole lot of astrologers, don't even agree with prediction.
What would they say?
Well, the psychologically orientated astrologers would say, you don't want to put something into somebody's mind prior to it actually happening, right?
Yeah.
I think it's wrong to have that attitude because, first of all, you can predict with astrology. I think a lot of astrologers that don't know how, but you can predict pretty fantastic things, you know. I mean, it's like seems to be a waste of a fantastic tool. And I can tell you, you know, some astrologers are, you know, brilliant like that. In the 16th century, 17th century, was it, or 16th century? 17th century, William Lilly predicted the fire of London. He was an astrologer. And he predicted it 10 years before it happened, or something like that. The Great Fire of London. He was arrested when the fire took place because they thought, hello, you know, how did he know?
Yeah.
And in 2001, a great American astrologer predicted in September on the East Coast of America, Islamic extremists would make a terrible attack, which would lead to an enormous loss of life.
So it's quite dangerous.
Well, yeah,
to share your prediction like that.
And it reminds me of a guy called Michael Bagent, who in 1981 or 2 predicted completely accurately the year of the dissolution of the Soviet Union, when nobody had any idea that the Soviet Union would ever dissolve. So that's political predictions.
Yeah.
So it's possible. My point is, it's possible to make predictions.
Absolutely.
It's just difficult.
Yeah.
In the personal life of somebody, you know, let's say they've just met someone, and you said, "Oh, great! I hope you enjoy it," you know, because in a year you're going to go from each other. That's what I would call a useless prediction. You know,
it'll just be annoying.
Yeah, and you don't know for sure as an astrologer. You don't know for sure. You know, you can easily misread something, really easily.
Okay, so it's really important to be humble.
Yeah, first of all, you just don't know.
No.
Secondly, where prediction becomes extremely useful is when people are trying to make a decision. Because basically, if they really could listen to their inner voice, they'd know what to do. The prediction lies within them in many ways. So the job of the astrologer is to explore the opportunity. Really, you can see what's a good idea and what's not. For example, if everybody once in a lifetime is going to have Uranus on the MC, which is the career point of their chart. Okay. And when that happens, they need to make a career change. Now, if somebody came and said, I'm so bored at work, you know, but it's like, this is the way I earn my money and I cannot, I can't imagine changing, you know.
A lot of people feel like that.
Yeah, but you know that if Uranus comes once in a lifetime, this is the time they should make that change. And that's the secret to success. So you want to get them to get there, but you can't say, give up your job. So you have to say something like, okay, you know, so how would it be in a year's time? You're still doing your job, but, you know, you're nice and settled. Is that going to feel okay? You know, you have to get them to make their own prediction about the future.
So the secret to success, you just gave us that is to go see an astrologer.
Well, I tell you, it would really help. You know, it would help so many people. But
then we also discussed that there are differences to astrologers. And I'm thinking, is that also because some are maybe not as good and experienced, but among the experienced ones, they'll also have each their filters, like you were talking about before.
Absolutely, and you tend to sort of come with stuff that you're familiar with, you know.
Well, you don't know any other, I guess, right?
Right, you don't.
Yeah.
So you have to have a really blank mind, you know. Well, actually, I can't speak for other astrologers. There are in Denmark some fantastic astrologers, you know. But it's not just the astrology. It's the interaction with the client. And unless there is a meeting of minds, there's not really going to be an effective astrological consultation.
Really?
There has to be a meeting of minds. There cannot just be a delivery of information.
Because that happens a lot now on the internet, right? And that's what I'm talking. It's a lot online that we get our horoscopes now.
Yeah, and you're not going to get the meeting of minds there, you know. So it's limited. It may be okay, but it's just limited. If you want magic to happen, there has to be a meeting of the minds, because it's in this interpersonal space between two people that there's an energy of transformation, and that's not really, you know, you get that with any kind of therapy. So that, I think, is the magical ingredient for a good astrological consultation.
Meeting us. What did you say?
Yeah,
Energy
it's
of
quite,
transformation.
it's quite deep, really, because it's the meeting spot of two consciousnesses. Yeah. The interpersonal interface, the meeting spot. Yeah. That is so powerful. There's a tremendous transformative energy there. Wow. You get it, they get it, and the solution becomes obvious.
Yeah, it's like the third.
Yeah, it's an energy, you know. It's because there's not a big difference between you and the other. And the meeting place in the middle is where truth is. Something like that. But
then again, that is my question. Why don't we use astrology in therapy? Because I've actually lately been to my psychologist and saying, I think I'm a love addict.
Yeah, I'm abusing, that's a good description of Venus and Pisces.
Yeah, right. I'm abusing love somehow because it's that thrill and I want to get rid of it. And we've worked with that. But it would just be a lot easier for me to not make myself sick in the way that I portray myself if the therapist were in on the Pisces chart. You know what I mean? It would be like such a help if we're already there. If we had that information to begin with.
Also, the fact that being a love addict is has another side to it. You know, which is that the love bit is really good. Yeah. The addict bit is not so good. Yeah. You know, but you wouldn't be an addict if you didn't have an abundance of love. You know, so, and that you don't want to lose the abundance of love, but you do want to lose the addiction. Yes. Yeah. Anyway, in terms of therapy and astrology, there are some important points to make. First of all, astrologers are not normally trained therapists. No. So astrology is extremely good at identifying a problem or a behavior. But astrologers, or in itself, astrology doesn't have the tools for helping people deal with trauma or deal with certain... But it goes a long way, and I would say that a good astrologer gets much faster to the core issues than any psychologist. Yeah. But they may not have the tools
the help to get the person further.
Yeah. My wife's a psychologist.
Yeah. And is she using astrology?
Yeah, she can't help it, but she doesn't actually use it in the consultation, you know, so she's not looking at the horoscope with the people.
But wouldn't that be a help?
It would, but in my opinion, it would. But it's not accepted.
No.
You know, it's like I was at a course last week, which is to do with trauma therapy, and there's trauma therapy, right? And there's a doctor who's on the course, but he cannot use it.
Why? It's not his job.
It's not accepted to use trauma therapy, trained trauma therapy.
But he's allowed?
Not in his workplace.
Oh, okay.
And that's the system, you know. It's a poor show. It really is.
It's very silly.
Yeah, but even in the psychologist's world, you know, it's frowned upon to use astrology.
And that's what I'm frowning upon. Because I'm like the least critical journalist here because I'm just adding fire to the fuel.
But you know, I understand it because you just don't know how good the astrologer is, you know, and also there's a lot of there's a lot of weak astrology.
No, but if you're a psychologist and if you just had just a
But if you're a psychologist and you study astrology, you'd be way ahead of the field.
Right. Yeah. Where is that? It's
But
nowhere.
It's a difficult study, you know, astrology. You have to have a talent and then you have to develop it.
But even if you just had that little piece of information, that would be a lot.
Yeah,
for your star sign.
you know, well, no, well, yeah, maybe the star sign.
So you could cooperate.
But there's much more that would help, much more.
But if people were, before they came to this psychologist, they would have to see you and get the whole chart. How about that? And then they would go to the psychologist and get.
And it happens a lot. I
does?
send people on to.
Really?
Yeah. You know, but
that's how it should be, I think.
Yeah, but then the psychologist or the therapist doesn't actually know. You know, they have their own skills, but they don't know exactly what the astrological pattern causing the problem is. You know,
it's a tricky one.
Yeah, but the ideal would be if you know, if you could use astrology as a special
like
study area.
Yeah,
that would be wonderful.
Yeah, it would. I agree. All right. I'm doing this thing where the guests ask each other questions. So my last guest was Sten Kofod, who's a healer, and he has this whole. He's much more than a healer, but let's just say he's a healer. And he was asking, isn't it? What if people don't identify with being their star sign? Does it still happen? Isn't it just because if they put it like that, if they do identify with it, isn't that why the future is?
Well, how would I know?
Predictable. Yeah, how would you know?
See, my reality is that everybody in my sphere of knowledge and influence reacts. But, you know, this is quite a deep question. Is it because I personally am filtering reality through my astrological filter? Is that the reason? And if you just didn't believe in astrology at all,
exactly,
would you then not react in this way? And I think, yeah, you would actually. And the reason I think that is because the solar, basically, it's a pretty logical idea. We're living in nature, we're living on Earth, we're living in a solar system, we're living in the universe. We're not living anywhere else, doing anything else. We're all part of an interwoven energy field. So it's kind of logical to me that we all, you know, that anything happening on the macro scale is also happening on a micro scale. You know, in other words, you know, you've got different dimensions of experience. You've got the universe, solar system, nature, the human body, the cells, the atoms. You know, there's like a whole, and I would guess that there's a, you know, there's a resonance between all these fields. So, in answer to Sten Kofod, I would say, yeah, well, I'm pretty sure actually, even if you don't believe it'll still work.
You'll just be unaware of it.
Yeah. And therefore, in your reality, it wouldn't work.
Unless you read your
right,
your
and
chart,
that's what
right?
happens. And somebody comes along maybe, and they're good, and they tell you about your horoscope, and then you think, wow, okay. And then suddenly your reality changes, you know.
Yeah.
But it's like being a Christian.
Or is it?
Or in a fundamentalist group, you know. If you take a fundamentalist Christian group,
Yes.
The whole mindset filters reality in a specific way.
That's true. Absolutely.
And you know, one way leads to perdition, and the other way leads to heaven. You know, and everything gets filtered like that, and it's a very riveting, compelling view, which, you know, is very difficult to come out of. You know, but it's just and these, for them, it's all real.
Yeah,
it's all real. You know, so the whole point about the mind is that it, you know, whatever reality you choose to embrace, the universe will come back and confirm that reality. Because you're sending, you're like a porpoise sending out sonar. You know, you're actually sending out signals and receiving the bounce back, depending on your worldview. Do you get that?
I do get that, but is that saying everything is
Yes,
true
it is.
as long as you believe it?
Or everything's untrue.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it is like that. So it is actually saying
That your perception
you do not
rules.
know. Yeah, you do not know what reality is. You do not know. So, and you're never going to. Not as an individual self, because the individual self is an illusion too. But there is, however, an important thing here, and that is your worldview. It has to be, it's much, much better that it's a friendly worldview than an unfriendly worldview. So you may think that, for example, life's a jungle. It's all about survival, and everything's going to confirm that for you.
Yeah.
But that's not a very ecological view.
Not very helpful.
No. Whereas with astrology, you're saying, hey, you're in tune with everything going on around you, That's a helpful view. It's ecological. Yeah. It's good for nature. It's good for you, So I think it's important to embrace a view which is positive for the people around you. Like Buddhism, it's basically love and compassion is the, real huge motivating factor.
And in reality, whatever reality is, it's not how it happens. Oh, now I'm choosing Buddhism because that's probably gonna make me kind. It's within you, right? You feel this is what my soul knows.
You could say that, and that's a great point. Actually, you gravitate to. Probably that's why they say with gurus and that they say you don't choose your guru, your guru chooses you.
Yeah, that's what you're being attracted to. I say that I believe in everything at the moment except anything religious, which is a lot.
But then you'd have to define what religious is.
Absolutely, for me,
and
it's
religious is a kind of mindset which you've had enough of.
It is the one truth sort of thing, one behavior, one way of living. But about moving, let's make a bridge there. It's often said, don't flee. I mean, it's often been said to me anyway, for many, many years, don't flee, maybe because it seemed like that I've done that. But then saying don't flee from something is...
Well, they say Pisces is escapist, right?
Oh.
Yeah, so they're always fleeing, whether, physically or emotionally or mentally.
But that advice is it's a bit... it's also enabling manipulation, like just stick to where you are, right? And make that, stay in that church and that community and that town. Whereas growth could be somewhere else. That's just my point of view.
Yeah, and who knows, I think sometimes you have to flee when the danger is too great.
Yeah, when the danger is too great, yeah. And my question about that is, if you have to break something karmic, then maybe it does make sense to move yourself. How do you see that? I'm saying this without even explaining karma, but that's what my last episode was about.
On the situation.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't answer that. It depends who you are.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I'm always moving from one situation to another. And possibly I'd benefit more if I stayed in the same place.
Do you think so?
Well, maybe financially at least. But I can't help it. I'm built that way. Some people are very good at staying in the same place. And that's normally fixed signs like Taurus or Leo or Aquarius, maybe, especially Taurus.
Are you Gemini?
No, I'm Cancer,
okay.
So Cancer is like, I have Mars in Gemini, which means I'm like, I do a lot of Gemini things.
Okay, like moving and
writing. Well, writing and speaking and stuff, teaching.
Yeah.
That's my Mars in Gemini. But no, I'm a Cancer, which means I'm, I actually like the home. I'm attached to things and places, but I'm not a typical Cancer because I can give up anything at any particular moment in time.
You can give up anything?
Yeah.
Such a gift to be able to do that. All right. So, but I was just curious how you view the whole karma thing in astrology, because it is like you say, we attract, and then we also attract people with certain.
Well, the horoscope is like a map of karma.
It's a map of karma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But karma is something that's created in every moment of time, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you've ever seen I've seen some fantastic digital representations of DNA being formed, and DNA is like it's kind of constantly being created in spiral form. But there's a subject called epigenetics, which shows that the environment and your thoughts is actually changing. It can also change your DNA. So you say the DNA was like karma. Everything's kind of stored there. But epigenetics, or what you're doing here and now and where you're doing it, also affect that formation of the DNA, changing your future. So the future can actually be changed at any particular moment of time when your focus is 100% on it.
By your environment as well.
By you,
by wherever you are.
By you. But your environment also, even without you.
Yeah. All right. It's so vast.
It's terribly vast.
It is. Yeah. I wouldn't recommend anyone to. Well, I will recommend everyone to go into and read their horoscopes, but it's also hard. Like, I can't do that. What you're doing, trying to predict the future, right? I just have to say, okay, now I'm going to do some more meditation, one step at a time. I can't sit down and say, okay, because of I don't even understand the language. Like now Pluto is in retrograde in 7th house. I don't.
But you're the podcaster, right?
Yes.
I mean, I'm the astrologer. You're doing what you do extremely well.
I'll stay over here. Yeah. Good. All right. But it's just to say that when we're talking about mastery of prediction, we kind of need help, most of us.
Yeah. There's some people who don't want to know. They just got a willpower. They go for what they want. Think positive and get it, right? But what often happens is that people have got a good vision of what they want in the future. That's actually Jupiter that creates that kind of ability to visualize what you want. But they are prevented from reaching their goals by negative experiences from the past. That's a Saturn thing, so it's the interplay between Jupiter and Saturn that enables you to create success. So if you can make people aware of what their habituated bad habits are, you can help them reach what they want for themselves,
Their full potential.
Yeah.
Right. I need to ask you about your questions. One question for my next guest.
Oh, well, am I allowed to know who the next guest is?
Yes, you are. Okay. And it's quite another topic, but it's the former porno model Katja Keen.
Is she Danish?
She's Danish, yeah. Do you know her?
No.
No. But because she's quite famous, so you might have known. She published a book as well.
Okay, right. Okay.
Yeah, so a long time in that business, and now it's been a while since.
Yeah.
I think it's been like 17 years.
Yeah, okay, I've got a question. Going back like 50 years before there was any porn industry, and people were not at all familiar with like different sexual acts except what they exchanged, coming to now when almost everybody has seen porn.
Become liberated.
Yeah. What, does she see that as having a positive effect on people's sexuality?
Good one. Yeah. I'm going to take that with me to her. Yeah. All right. Could it have been predicted, the sexual liberation?
I think so, yeah, because this new era that's coming is a sexually liberated era because, in the Christian era, So there was so much tremendous repression of sexuality. This now has become but sexuality has now become a commercial force, and basically, people are, allowed to enjoy sex, and women are allowed to enjoy sex. They weren't allowed before. So I think that's predictable in both, like in the long-term change of era that's come, but also in the 80s, Pluto came into Scorpio. Are you from that period, or what year are you born?
1986.
Right. Well, Pluto was in Scorpio. Pluto's in a sign for often, between 14 and 20 years, or even more. But in this period, Pluto was in Scorpio, which was the beginning of this anxiety about sex. Scorpio is sexuality. Pluto is evokes anxiety, and Pluto is connected with death. You have this kind of AIDS epidemic, and the whole thing about how dangerous sex could be. But that generation is far more aware of the deeper aspects of sexuality than any generation before.
Because of that danger.
Possibly because of that, but possibly also because of the porn industry and stuff like that.
Yeah. I feel like asking you a few more questions, whether you want to predict, because I was thinking about with porn and sex, is it gonna still have this shock effect and this appealing effect on television or whatever media you use in the future?
I don't know, because don't you think porn or sexual films about sexuality, sex films, maybe is a better description. Don't you think that there's just a million variations of that?
Yeah.
And, so some of it's damaging, in my opinion, and some of it's not damaging because it might be kind of helping, so what was the question?
I'm just, if you can predict the future.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't imagine it getting any less. No. I'm sure it's going to get more integrated.
How about the media? But will there exist television in a few years, or will it be all
Well,
be
television's
online?
already dead, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So that's an easy one.
Yeah, everybody's choosing Netflix, or they want to watch what they want to watch when they want to watch it, which is a little bit of a shame actually, because there was this period when everybody watched the same thing at the same time.
It's made it harder to reach people. It's so fragmented. Where
I can't.
Can I find the information?
I think that TV in its as it exists today, everything's going to be multi-choice device, don't you think?
That's what it was.
But then we're just talking near future. If you want distant future.
How many years is distant future?
After 20 years.
After 20 years.
Yeah, distant future, I think we just got no idea. But you go like that and you're just going to see whatever screen or 3D representation in space in front of you, who knows, right? It's beyond what we can possibly imagine.
So there's no way you can tell that sort of thing.
I'll tell you one thing.
Yeah, do.
There's not going to be any... the whole thing about global warming and climate change, although there will be some warming and climate change, it's a diminishing problem, not an increasing problem.
It's going to be smaller.
Much, much smaller.
Because we're going to solve it.
Yeah, absolutely. Pollution is going to completely disappear.
You can see that?
I know it.
Wow. You know it in your soul, or you've seen it in the planets?
It's difficult to distinguish, right? But I know it logically, because, just do you have a television at home?
No, I don't. But I dream about, being on television. That's a paradox,
Okay. Well, I thought you might have a flat screen television because, 10 years ago or 20 years ago, all the televisions were big fat things, weren't they?
Yeah.
And nobody would buy one of those today, would they? Well, nobody's going to buy a car in even 15 years' time that isn't electric. And all electricity is going to be stored locally in cars, in a huge network like on Skype, so that, centralized power stations are going to become a thing of the past as natural power sources like solar and wind charge cars which share electricity. That's why there's not going to be any pollution.
That's really good.
Yeah.
It's really valuable for it to be like that. Are there going to be more bikes as well? I would like to.
Yeah, well, bikes are great, aren't they? Because they keep you healthy.
Yeah. And the roads are safer. All right. Thank you so much, Adrian, Duncan. I just want to hear if you can make your sound of a better life. If you have thought about a sound, or it could be a sentence, but just anything that pops up in your mind.
Sound of a better life.
Yeah. That is a good one. Is that after a long day?
Could be after a lot of things. I think.
Yeah. Letting it go. All right. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening in on this interview. If you enjoyed it, please leave an iTunes review. I would love that. Thank you for doing that. And also you can text me on the Facebook page. I like your comments there. And that is also where you can check out the links for Adrian Duncan. He has been such a great influence on the whole area of astrology, spreading out the word of astrology to the world. So please, if you haven't checked his stuff out, his materials out, you should definitely do that. You should make up your own mind. And always just stay open to the voices that might inspire you to grow. Until next time, please rethink everything.